Hi, I'm Jeff Goods. This is my TED Talk on the power of using storytelling and podcasting and creating community to connect with a group of cynical learners. As learning designers, one of our great fears is having a group of learners that's disengaged. How many times, if you've ever been an instructor standing in front of a class of people, if you flip through a PowerPoint and you notice by the third slide people are starting to zone off and check their phones or their eyes go up towards the ceiling, it's a sign that what you're doing is not connecting. Now, here's something that's even more frightening. What if this group of students is disengaged before they even connect with you? Before they walk through the door, if you're in a classroom, or before they log in to your online learning environment. You've already lost them. Well, that sometimes happens because of students' past experiences. They've had webinars or online learning that hasn't engaged with them, that hasn't addressed their own specific problems that they're having in their office, at work, or failure to use language that connects to them. As learners, as learning designers and educators, this is a real problem. Now, we know that according to M. David Merrill, we have 5 first principles of instruction. Learning is promoted when learners are engaged in solving real-world problems. Learning is promoted when existing knowledge is activated as a foundation for new knowledge. Learning is promoted when new knowledge is demonstrated to the learner. Learning is promoted when new knowledge is applied to the learner. And learning is promoted when new knowledge is integrated into the learner's world. Drilling down, this is all about making what you're teaching applicable to their world, to their day-to-day activity. Real-world problems. Existing knowledge is activated as a foundation for new learning. New knowledge is demonstrated to the learner and can be applied. That's when learning is promoted, and when this new knowledge is integrated into the learner's world. It's all about creating connections between the knowledge and the learner's world. But in order to do that, you have to understand the learner's world and cater your knowledge and your learning to fit that world. That's why design thinking makes so much sense when you're creating a learning environment. By applying design thinking principles, designers can create meaningful learning experiences that can have a continued impact upon a learner's sense of self-worth and place. So in our particular scenario that we've come up with, we have a group of learners. They're senior employees within a financial services companies. These men and women are top-notch achievers. They're made up of consultants and global account managers. They're, for the most part, at the peak of their careers. Their primary function is to help clients solve their business and productivity challenges. So these are people who are totally used to handling conversations in the boardroom. They're used to handling conversations with the head of the company, but the same group has struggled to engage with the organization's online webinar training modules. They're very cynical towards this process. In the past, learners have complained that the webinars don't offer value for time invested. They see training as eating into their busy schedules. It's an old adage that time is money, but it's especially true to this group of people. If you want them to devote the time to what you have to offer, you have to show them, illustrate to them, prove to them that it's worth their while. Now, these learners have had previous negative experiences with training created by course designers with no experience, as they say, in the trenches, no idea what goes on day to day. The created content is a disconnect. Now, going back to Merrill, well, the learning that they tried to promote was not connected to previous existing knowledge. It was not engaging the learners in solving real-world problems. There was a disconnect. Number 3, and this is particularly important, learners work in a competitive environment. They're afraid to make mistakes in front of their colleagues. So we can't assume that our learning environment is safe. We have to foster an environment of safety in order for these learners to learn. We have to create a tool which will engage, connect them, and then in turn help them become more engaged in the upcoming webinar. One way of doing that is to help foster a community within this group of people. These are people, like a lot of us, who work independently, and to assume that when we're thrust together we're going to immediately trust each other may be a faulty assumption. So we have to find a way to create a social environment that's safe yet connects. Now, I am going to give one prompt or lead in this design challenge, and I'm just going to throw this out there, saying that Bowman states that using stories to impart information in classroom settings stimulates the social brain by activating learners' emotions, thereby increasing their receptiveness to information. Focusing on that idea of the social brain, because if we drill down, the challenge here is a learning challenge, but within a social context. And to truly empathize with these learners, we have to understand their social world, which by its very nature is competitive. So here are the design parameters for this. This project must be completed using the design thinking process. And of course, first and foremost, that means having the end user in mind. And this project must foster a community of practice and actively connect this group of learners on a social level. This is much more than just a textbook. And this design must be easily accessible and implementable by the learners. They have to be able to access it easily and use it, and designers must be empathetic to the time constraints of the learners. And as such, an asynchronous learning tool is recommended. It would be very difficult to get all these learners together in one space and in one time. And as designers, you must embrace the human elements of empathic design. Your design must reflect a sensitivity towards humans, gathering inspiration and information about and making sense of people and their experiences and context. And in this challenge, context is absolutely key. So with all those in mind, we'd like to introduce the success determinants. A successful design will have these qualities. The learners must easily engage with your design solution. The interface must be user-friendly. And the solution must fit into their busy schedules, respecting the time demands of the learners. And it must also acknowledge the learners' opinions and emotions towards previous training efforts. Demonstrate to them that these webinars are indeed relevant, will connect with them. What they learn will be applicable to their daily lives. And as well, your solution must successfully address the cynical nature of this group of learners and encourage this audience to embrace intellectual risk-taking. It has to build bridges that have been fractured in the past by other learning attempts. Your solution must protect the learner's self-esteem and recognize the competitive environment in which they work. And the result of your design solution must be to lead the learners to become more actively engaged in the webinar series. This is a multifaceted challenge, and one that is heavily rooted in social challenges of the learners. If you are successful, you'll not only serve this group of learners, but many, many other learners in the corporate world who are in competitive environments, who have failed to connect with their learning tools. What you create will offer something across a wide spectrum of people in the world. Good luck.